What do you think young people want?
I've seen that in my country, they like content about politics and scandals. Is what they consume the most.
Yes, current affairs. It's very interesting, actually. I love that these are the kind of answers that are coming up. A lot of the time we get, they're only interested in celebrities. It's not true. It's not true. Awesome. So what do we think young people want? What we find is that young people, young audiences, they're not all about TikTok and they're not all about viral trends. Yes, they are, and people enjoy those things, but they also want global and local news, as just mentioned. Current affairs is very important, and they are not just looking for fun entertainment. A lot of media organizations make the mistake of kind of trying to hit the young market by just doing lighthearted news and just doing celebrity gossip, or just showing music, for example. Yes, that will work to an extent, but you can approach young audiences with serious subjects. It does work. It's a massive misunderstanding that that kind of content doesn't work. The key is to make it relatable to young audiences. Often when we're trying to repurpose things for social, for example, we tend to take a broadcaster's point of view in terms of something that we'd put on TV, we then put immediately onto social. That won't work because young audiences need to understand why this particular content matters to them. Why is this worth watching in the 5 seconds that you're presenting it to them? Every time they're scrolling, you have about 3 to 5 seconds for them to make their decision as to whether they're going to stay on that content or not. So you have to sell the information that you're giving up top. You need to say why this is relatable to them. Why should they care about this issue? And often that is missed. As Katya rightly said, making your content visual is super, super important. Everything that they do is very focused on visual. My brother is 18. I'm, by the way, not in this age group. I'm a millennial. I'm older than the target age. But my brother, who's 18, he has been communicating via video his whole life. I was very much part of the early internet messaging generation. I was not part of this whole Snapchat up culture where people are taking videos themselves saying, hi, how are you? And sending it. That freaked me out. But my brother has communicated that way all of his life. Visual communication has been part of his life from the very beginning. And that's the kind of market that you're trying to reach. So you have to think like them in terms of the visual aspect. You're also competing, especially on social media, with celebrities like Kim Kardashian, rappers who are really visual with their content, and you have to compete with that kind of content. Make sure, as I said, it's focused on the youth experience and explain concepts. Don't assume knowledge. This doesn't mean that you have to really dumb it down. That's not true. You don't have to make it super simple. If I'm talking about climate change, for example, I don't have to kind of go into the nitty gritty of, what the sun is and what global warming might be doing, not necessarily needing to do that, but you do need to explain the concept of climate change. You can't just say climate change and then move on. You can't assume that knowledge that they know what climate change is. So those kind of concepts, you do need to kind of break down as well for young audiences. What is really, really important to note is that young people now have tools to shout louder across nations. So when you're making content, it's great to do localized stories, it is, but on social, you also have to understand that the people that are consuming your content are also consuming international as well. A lot of the time, people go in with a very localized view when creating content for young audiences, and they forget that the young audiences that they're reaching out to also are exposed to international media. So you have to also compete with that. And what's really, really important is the young audiences are always seeking connections. They're seeking connections to the story. They're seeking connections to the people in the story, so the individuals, the sources that you've interviewed, and that's why our kind of model works so well, because they're immediately connected to the person whose experience it is. And they're also seeking connections with each other. Like, how can they as an audience connect with each other? And that's something that you have to think about as well, and something that I'll be speaking on later today. Often when you are looking online, you can find stories that you wouldn't have discovered otherwise. And these can spark conversations online. So when you're looking in young audiences, markets, you can find certain conversations that you might not have thought of that can spark viral conversations. Often when we're looking for stories, and I'll go through a few methods of collecting stories later on, but often when we're looking for stories, we're looking on places like TikTok, we're looking on places like Facebook, actually, within certain groups, and looking for conversations that are happening online. Things that people are pointing out that they wish they'd seen more in the media, or that they wish had been spoken about in more depth. TikTok is a great place for that, because people are actively on TikTok, actively sharing their own experiences. They're actively sharing their opinions, and you can see kind of the responses to them as well. This particular story is something that I'll only play a few seconds of, but it's something that we've done countless times on our channels, because it always does really well, because it's an issue that young people care about and want to be seen in media. 1 second, let me just play a few seconds of this, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about in terms of our model from this too.
My hair was compared to different types of animals. I would be told that my hair looked like that of a monkey's. The first time I experienced hair discrimination, I was as young as 5 years old. I had my natural hair out, and I was playing with some of my other friends. They had different hair. I remember someone asking my mom, "Why didn't you do her hair today? Why does her hair look so messy?" I received a lot of rude comments about my hair. It became too much for me when teachers started to comment. This teacher said something about, "Oh, my hair makes me look like an animal." She also commented that my hair is the reason why she doesn't pick me for certain activities. The schools never did anything about these comments. I used to work at this motor vehicle services in my hometown. I was told by my boss at just 16 years old that my hair was unprofessional for work and that I shouldn't return to work until I could find a different hairstyle. I felt angry and I felt hurt. I felt insecure. Why were people constantly telling me that my hair wasn't good enough? I started to straighten my hair. I did this because I thought it would make me fit in. I thought it would make me feel more beautiful. I got many compliments. People loved my hair. People asked me why I didn't do it all the time. Hearing that over and over was the trigger for me to continue to do it all the time. One day I was straightening my hair. I remember starting to have like a breakdown, thinking, what am I doing? Why am I spending hours of my day to fit into a beauty standard that isn't mine to fit into? Straight hair is seen as a beauty standard because it goes all the way back to the beginning of time, where people with certain features are seen as better looking, and that still plays on in society today.
I used to play football. After a game, we'd go to the shower. The boys would laugh at me because my hair, when it would be wet, it would be different than what it looked like when it was dry. All the boys would keep saying, "My hair is a mop. We'll use your hair to dry out the showers." Everyone who will get in on the joke and start laughing and say, "Oh, but Sam, don't take it the wrong way because we're just having a laugh." It's not making me laugh, it's hurting me. I said, what can I do to have my hair straight? Can I get surgery? My mother said, well, you can relax your hair. And I was like, okay, then I'm doing it. Over 15 years that I've been relaxing my hair, making sure it's straight whenever I go to professional settings. I always make sure that my hair is one thing that can't be picked upon. When I started trying to embrace the way my hair looked, the sort of natural curls, I started getting comments at work. My manager said, this is not what you normally look like. You don't expect it when you're an adult, especially when you've worked so hard to embrace your true nature. Men do not speak enough about issues related to their physique. We're not taken seriously. You're a man, it's not that big of a deal. I'm trying now to embrace my curls and my afro hair. I want people to understand it is normal to have curly hair, to have afro hair, to have brown skin. Never try to erase who you are and where you come from.
So this whole idea and this whole conversation around being true to yourself and your own identity and presenting yourself as that is a huge topic for young people at the moment. It's a massive movement in terms of making sure that all of, for example, in my generation, making sure that you looked on trend, making sure that you were representing what was in the latest magazines was super important. And now with this new generation, they are very focused on being true to themselves and being real. And that is a really interesting area to explore in terms of stories, in terms of the angles that you're looking at, in terms of doing well within this young audience. You have to think from that framing and that perspective. These kind of stories about discrimination are really well received and spark conversations that go on and on and on. And we often find new sources and new angles on this once we post these stories with comments in the comment section, which I'll go on to talk about later, because it's a conversation, it's a debate, it's something that people want to talk on. So when you're looking for kind of content for young audiences and stories and angles to do, often thinking about representation and things that often young people are already kind of passionate about and talking about on platforms like TikTok, for example, is a really good start, because you know that kind of content is going to do well, and it also creates further content with the responses that you get.